So in this tutorial we are going to learn about circular linked list. So in the previous tutorials we have discussed about single linked list, and in single linked list if you want to access any node, or you can say the data of linked list, we start traversing from the beginning. Let's suppose this is our example of a single linked list. So if we want to traverse in this linked list, we will start from the head position, and then we will just use the next pointer to access the next node. So once you have traversed to, let's suppose, this node, let's suppose now the pointer is at this node. So if we are at any node in the middle of this singly linked list, so then it is not possible to access the precede given node, or you can say the node preceding this node. So for that case we are going to use a circular linked list. So a circular linked list is an advancement in it is an advancement of single linked list, and single linked list is using the last pointer as null. But in the circular linked list we are not going to make it null. We are going to make this pointer point to the first element, and this will make it like a circular, or you can say that this will become a cycle. So let me draw a diagram to represent a circular linked list. So let's suppose the data to be stored are 5, 6, 7 and 8. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a node, and then this node will have its next pointer, which will point to the next node, just like in our singly linked list. And the next node 7 will also look like same, and in the last node, which is 8, this next pointer will not point to null. Now this pointer is going to point to the first element of our linked list, and this is how it becomes circular linked list. So once you have traversed to, let's suppose, this node, and you want to go back to the previous node, so you can actually traverse along this whole cycle. So what we are going to do in circular linked list, we are going to assign the last node, we are going to assign a pointer. So the first thing that we need to do is to take an external pointer, and this is known as the last pointer. We will call it as the last pointer. So we will create a last pointer, and this last pointer does not has data. Its main use is to point to a specific node, and since it is pointing to the last node, it is known as the last pointer. So this pointer is used to point to the last node of the linked list, or you can say the circular linked list. And the main reason why we are assigning this last pointer to this last node is because we want to take some reference point so that we can traverse from this point to the other nodes, just as we are taking the first node as head in case of a single linked list. We are going to take the last node as reference. So the question may arise here, like, why are we not using head as a reference? Why are we using a last node as a reference to traverse through this whole circular linked list? So the answer is, I'm going to write a second point here, And the answer is that if we have a pointer pointing to the last node, then last, and we are going to use this operator, and then next will point to the first node. So this is the main reason why we are assigning a pointer to the last node, because the next of this last node, you can see that this is the next pointer, and you can write it as last next, and this pointer is pointing to the first node, so we can directly access the first node. Let's suppose this is the first node, so you can directly access the first node of the circular linked list using the next pointer of the last node. And this is the main reason, or we can say this is the main advantage of assigning the last node, assigning a pointer reference to the last node and traversing through this node. If we have assigned a head reference, then the next of this head will point to the second one, which is not that much beneficial. So the main reason why we are assigning last node as reference is that the next pointer of this last node will point to the first node, and this is the main reason why we have introduced circular linked list. So this is the concept of the circular linked list, and in the next tutorial we are going to write the implementation of the circular linked list, and we are going to write 5 to 4 basic functions. The first function that we are going to write is add to empty, and in this function we will just pass the reference to our last node, or we can say we will just pass the last pointer and the data. So this function is used to add node in empty circular linked list. The second function that we are going to write is add begin, and this function add begin will also pass the last reference and the data. Let's suppose the data is 5, and this function will add node to beginning of our linked list. I will write circular linked list as CLL. So this function will add the node to the beginning of our linked list. The next function is add end. We will again pass the last reference and the data itself, and this function will add node at the end of our circular linked list. And the last function is the add after function. We will just pass the reference, the last, and then we will pass the node. We will pass two data. Let's suppose I want to add a node after 5, so I will write 5 here, and then the data of that node will come here. Let's suppose the data is 8. So this is how the function will look like, and it inserts a node with data 8 after the node that has data 5. And the final function is the traverse function, and in the traverse function we will just pass the last pointer, and then we will update the last pointer as by using this last next, and we will traverse through our whole circular linked list. So in the next tutorial we are going to see how we are going to implement each of these functions in our circular linked list. So thanks for watching.